Hello and welcome to tonight's LEC Esports Roundup. We're going to cover all four major regions, the LCS games from last night, LPL and LCK games from this morning, as well as the LEC games that took place this past evening. We will then preview the LPL, LCK, and LEC schedule for tomorrow. Predictions, I'm 203 and 102. Sorry, just bumped into the board there. Have definitely had some rough prediction days this week. It's been a bad week. Frankly, it's been a bad month when it comes to predictions. I think it is correlated with how much I'm working, for sure. I'm working, 60 hours a week, 50, well, at least 50 hours a week, up to 60. So, you know, we're getting work done. So, recap LCS, 100 Thieves TSM. 100 Thieves win. They're 6-9, TSM 8-7. Someday was my MVP. Quid 10-4, 35% of damage. Busio would go Deathless 0-17. Haunter 0-5-0, 29% of damage in top lane on Gwen. Someday set the tone with a solo kill on Haunter. Closer then would go to top lane to get Someday ahead even farther. Doublelift was doing his job in bot lane. He and Busio taking care of Wild Turtle and Chime. Quid has the nice KDA and damage, but that was after the game was already decided. We're talking about a 5k gold lead roughly in the mid game for 100 Thieves, and they just never looked back. TSM, not really much going for themselves in this one. Insanity pulls out the Sejuani mid, which he's chaotic, that's for sure. So we have some Kesa, Sejuani, Graves, Yone. He has a lot of different champions. Now, I'm not a big Sejuani mid guy. I'm not a big melee mid guy, so that is that. EG Cloud9 win. They're 11-4. EG 9-6. Blabber 134, 31% of damage was my MVP. Sven 107 on Braum. Blabber played Maokai, by the way. Jojo Pune 421, 41% of damage on Jace. Jojo would get a double kill early on. EG would actually set the pace and tempo with kills. However, they were not able to pull ahead in gold. It was just like a very low kill game where EG, I think we're up 6-2, but the gold was close for a very long time. Then in the mid to late, well, I would say the late game for sure. Cloud9 started getting advantages, and Blabber was actually able to steal a Baron, which they were able to win off of, and that's why he got MVP, because the game was anybody's at that point, and he took the Baron, and that won them the game. They also had a little fight around there as well. That's pretty much what did it. Otherwise, this game was just like one of them boring, slow games where neither team wants to lose, which, you don't want to lose, but at the same time, you don't want to do the Brion. TL and FlyQuest. TL win. They're 9-6. FlyQuest 4-11. APA was my MVP. Yeon 827, 30% of damage in the win. Core JJ 0216. So bot lane went 8-4-23. Viklin 954, 34% of damage. Certainly responding since his benching for one game for Spirax. Vikla's put together two good games. Now, the Team Liquid bot lane did get the better of FlyQuest, to be quite honest with you. Fly made it a clear, it was clear their game plan was put Summit in a hole, put Impact head on the Rumble, and let him carry. That did not translate. They put Summit in a hole. He died like 5 times by the mid game. But, unfortunately for them, the bot lane of TL were able to, get ahead of Prince and Vulcan. Now, sure, they weren't like killing them as much, but they were able to keep up in gold and put themselves in a position. And then in the mid game, there was a key team fight in mid lane for APA on the Nico to have a great Pot Blossom, which pretty much decimated all the health bars of FlyQuest. TL win that fight, and that allows them to then finish the game, which is why APA gets it, because it wasn't even Yeon and Core JJ necessarily that decided that mid-game mid-game turning point team fight. However, they were what kept them in the game in the early game. Otherwise, I imagine Impact would have just ran them over. Vikla obviously did very well into APA in lane and in team fights as well. In 954, he died a bit, but he also had 9 kills. Golden Guardians NRG win. They're 8-7. Golden Guardians 10-5. Dokla was MVP. 7-7, 35% of damage on Gangplank. Palafox 2-11 on Azir. Stixay 615, 42% of damage for GG on an Aphelios or a Kesa, I forget which. regardless, Golden Guardians got out to lead and through. We had a couple throws again today, and you know, it ended up being the very late game where GP is allowed to scale, get to 6 items, and then Dokla just dealt a shit ton of damage. And despite the early game going up, I mean, not great for the team, they were able to win in the end. Palafox on the Azir also scaling. I mean, NRG said, hey, this is the LCS. We can scale to 35, 40 minutes and win, and that's what they did. I thought Contracts was their best player throughout the entire game, but wasn't the difference maker in the end. I thought he was active on the Poppy and was timely, able to read River's ganks at times and really be able to keep up. You know, it's also nice to see that the solo lanes of NRG showed up. I mean, Licorice and Gory. Gory's considered one of, if not the best mids in the LCS. Licorice has performed pretty well, but he did, I think he died trying to dive Dokla in this one, to be honest with you. Dignitas Immortals. Immortals would win. They're 4-11. Dig 6-9. Solo was my MVP on Kesante. Balulu 5-1-13. 39% damage on Vigar. Tactical 10-1-8. Tomo 6-3-2. 35% of damage in the loss. So Solo killed Rich twice in the early game. Laning phase. Rich on the Alawi trying to get things done. And Solo on the Kesante was able to have some key team fight wins. Not team fight wins, solo kills. But then in team fights, which is why that came to mind, Solo did a really good job of pinpointing his target and killing them. Rich, early on in team fights, he did that. I think he even did it to Tomo at one point, be able to pick him off and turn team fights. And, you know, despite not putting up a ton of damage, despite not having a great KDA, he was key to their success. Because Rich dealt the most damage for Dig his last Alawi game in a win. LPL, Team Wii, FPX. FPX would win, going to 5-10. Team Wii 7-8. Hacker was the MVP on Vi and Kazik, setting the tone, being very active. Hang did well, but Hacker was setting the pace. Care 5-3-22, 30% of damage. Chow Chow 1-2-25. You see, not many kills out of those two players. That's because Hacker was getting a lot of the kills. Cube 2-7-2, 30% of damage in the loss. Thought Jala, who was better than Cube. Hacker and Hang. Hacker being better. Care over Shanks in this one. Care sometimes puts up good games. FPX are heating up at the end of the split, kind of like IGR. And it's one of those things where which team's going to do better in 2024? Which team's going to make more moves? I mean, it begs the question, because FPX really didn't make a lot of big ticket moves from 2022 to 2023. IG did. As far as bot lane, Hope I thought was sus. LWX and Chow Chow getting the better of him. LWX not inting his face off like Hope. Iwandi non-existent in this one, kind of like Shanks. So Team Wii are going into the playoffs limping, to be quite honest with you. Nip and LNG. LNG win 2-0. They're 12-4. Nip finished the split 7-9. Gala was my MVP. 16-1-13, 34% of damage. Scout 12-1-16. So the two carry rolls, 28-2 and 29 to end the split. Photic 6-7-4, 34% of damage in the loss. Nip looked like crap. They got smoked in every which way. Tarzan was gapping Shadow. Scout gapping Angel. Top lane, what was Invincible even really doing? Zika was able to do some really nice things on the Jax. It wasn't good. So Nip are going to the playoffs also. It's hard to determine. Team We have one more series left. So they could like win that one and everyone's going to be like, oh, well, actually going into the end of the... Though they played BLG. I mean, it'll be a tough sell. But they still have an opportunity to redeem themselves. We're going into the playoffs. Nip look very bad. You know, these bottom tier LPL teams are the bottom half. Remember, 10 of the 17 teams make it. So the bottom 2 teams, for sure, are bottom half teams in the LPL. And that's just a matter of fact. Ultra Prime IG win 2-1. They end the split 6-10, up 5-11. So IG beat JDG, Weibo, and Ultra Prime down the split. One team is not like the others. Cryan 11, 11, 21, 29% of damage in the win. Tianzhen was MVP, 11, 3, 18. He got his pocket pick Rengar all 3 games. Dream 10, 8, 13, 28% of damage. He did very well in their win. Doggo and Harry also. I thought Harry played one of his better games of the split in that one. Now, in games 2 and 3, though, Tianzhen just continued. No, actually, I think IG won game 1, up 1 game 2. Mixing them up. Regardless, that's how up won their game. And then Tianzhen in the Rengar in all 3 games, even the loss, looked pretty solid. Oh, actually, I screwed up. Wink is supposed to be MVP. Wink is supposed to be MVP. No, Tianzhen looked good in all 3 games. Game 3, up had a lead and threw. They threw. Shoot, was it a Blitzcrank or was it a Nautilus? You get my drift, though. Wink was able to turn game 3 by picking off Kesa, getting a kill onto Doggo, turning that fight, allowing IG, I think, to prevent Soul and take a Baron, and that was able to turn that game. I thought On at times looked good. Cryan, obviously, I mean, that scoreline isn't great, right? I would say he dealt a lot of damage, but he struggled. I thought YSCam looked better than him between the solo laners of IG. I mean, the split was over. That's the thing. Like, we're talking about these series here. I mean, this one, I guess, matters for Team Lee, but this one is irrelevant for all intents and purposes. LCK, KDF, Sandbox. Sandbox win. They're 3-9. They won 2-0. KDF 4-8. Closer was MVP. 10-0, 13, 32% of damage. Willer 6-0, 11. So mid-jungle duo 16-0, 24. Bulldog 4-4, 3, 34% of damage. This looks like a spring result here for KDF. KDF losing, getting smoked, but yet Bulldog still found a way to have impact on the game, was the best player. Just gotta be honest. Ondel struggling into Cal. That's not a shock. Clear did pretty well into Doo-Doo, and that's not, like, that's where KDF needed to take advantage today, was because Clear was starting over Birdall. Doo-Doo needed to perform. Doo-Doo being one of those players that we have, like, highlighted as a guy that, oh, he's on a bottom half team in the LCK. Maybe he imports out to the LPL. Maybe he gets an opportunity on a better LCK team that wants to change top laners, you know, that sort of deal. However, he didn't show up today against Clear. Young Jay, not doing enough. Closer, solo killing Bulldog off the rip. I mean, yeah, like I said, Bulldog showed up and did well relative to the rest of his team, but he did get solo killed immediately in this one. It might even been first blood in game 1. And then Closer just was able to just be a menace. One of his better series coming out, you know. I mean, it's not hard to say one of his better series. There's 3-9, right? But KDF down the stretch are falling apart. Only a couple weeks left. There is an angle where KDF do not finish 6th now. And to be honest with you, I mentioned in my power rankings, it wouldn't shock me, because once they changed out supports, I was like, okay, they're not confident in themselves right now. In a young team needs that confidence, or they're going to fall apart. HLE and Breon. HLE went 2-1. They're 7-5. Breon 3-9. Viper 9-5-10. 32% of damage. Life 0-4-21. So the bot lane went 9-9-31. Henna 12-4-9. 28% of damage in the win. Hell, Henna's KDA was better than Viper's. Bro won game 1. Umpty on Skarner was fun. Oh, by the way, Kingen was MVP, and we'll get into that. Umpty on Skarner actually making a couple plays. I think there was 3 Breon kills by 12 minutes. Hold your horses. Morgan and team fights on the Gragas really turned the game. It was close because a Breon game isn't a blowout in Breon's favor. Seldomly does that happen. So Morgan turned to that one. He had a really good ulti in a team fight on the Gragas and won them that game. Games 2 and 3, HLE take them. Game 2, super slow. That was a classic. Very, very slow. I kind of erased that out of my mind. HLE find a win. Game 3 was close. And then in the last team fight, Kingen. No, game 1, let's put it this way. Game 3, in the early game, Bro attempt a dive top lane. Kingen outplays it, trades 1 for 1. And in bot lane, they're attempting to gank. Yeah, I want to make sure I wasn't thinking of a different series. And Brion try and gank bot lane. And, no, sorry. Shit. Bro attempt to gank Kingen. Kingen outplays the gank, gets a kill, doesn't die. HLE successfully dive bot lane to get kills onto Bro. See how that works. Then, the final team fight that decided this game, Kingen flashes in on the Renekton and solo kills Henna. And in a team fight, that's pretty impressive, right? That's a lot of damage out of a Renekton. So that's why I got MVP. Pretty much that solo kill, keeping them in it in top lane. LEC, Mad Lions, XL win 2-0. Otawamne, 6-3-18, 38% of damage, had Rumble both games. Peach, 11-20 was MVP. Niski, 9-4-3, 44% of damage for Mad. What an angle that is, huh? So we have Peach looking really good, which we hadn't seen all split long for XL, like as a carry on Lee Sin. His Lee Sin was a Korean Lee Sin. That's a Korean import Lee Sin, 110%. I mean, that triple kill was disgusting in the laning phase. And that, in and of itself, gave him MVP. Odo's dealing a ton of damage in Game 2. Ton of damage in Game 1. Leading the team in damage. I don't care. Peach's performance was his best performance of the split. Mad Lions. When Niski has 44% of your damage, not good. Chasey, not showing up. Not good. Not okay. Bot lane wise, both teams relatively irrelevant. So it kind of is what it is. Speaking of irrelevant, SK win 2-0 over Fnatic. He went 9-4-8, 37% of damage. Was MVP of Game 1. However, Game 2, he was... I almost said a word that I don't think I'm allowed to say. What happened to him. But Fnatic did take some liberties with Irrelevant in Game 2 in the early game. Exekick was MVP, 10-07. Humanoid, 1-7-6, 33% of damages. He was gapped by Certus. Certus finding value, especially on the Akali in Game 2. Fnatic in Game 2 got out to an early lead, but Exekick was the only one that actually was ahead of his lane opponent, about 1,000 gold ahead of Noah, despite dying to Noah. So that was nice to see. Fnatic clearly going into this one, Game 1, their comp looked like a comp from previous patch. Lack of adaptation. That hurts. Reminds me of Mad Lions in spring when they didn't adapt and they lost the first round. Now, obviously, it worked out for them, right? But, you know, right now, that's how Fnatic looked. SK looked like the boys of winter. That made me think that they could go to World. So let's go SK. Let's go Exekick. Really good young prospect. A lot of potential. Irrelevant, looking good when he gets opportunities and some resources. I know I have been hard on Irrelevant, and I will say I still don't think he can play weak side for shit. But if given a little opportunity, he can do a little something, at least into Oscarinen. But at the same time, we do have to, you know, respect if you can't be one-dimensional if you want to be considered one of the upper players in your region. Fnatic just didn't show up today, really. Wasn't good. Was not good. Sneak peek for tomorrow. LPL, Team We, BLG. Excuse me. Team We, 12th in the power ranking, 7-8, coming off of a loss to FPX. BLG, 2nd in the power rankings, 14-1, coming off of a win against RNG. Last time they played Team We, 1-1 in spring. Hope went 11-5-16 in the win, 25% of damage. Elk, 10-7-8, 38% of damage in the loss. Thunder Talk, JDG. Thunder Talk, 5-10, coming off of a loss to LNG. JDG first in the power rankings, 13-2, coming off of a win against Rare Atom. Last time they played, JDG 1-2-0. Knight, 18-3-10, 31% of damage. UCal, 3-9-2, 25% of damage in the loss. Lastly, Rare Atom OMG. Rare Atom 4-11, coming off of that loss to JDG. OMG 13th in the power rankings, 9-5, coming off of a win against EDG. When these two teams crossed paths in spring, Rare Atom actually won 2-1. Land, Strive, Assume went 26, 12, and 59 for 1,737 DPM. That was about 73% of the team's damage. Aki, Cream, Abel went 14, 20, and 23 for 1,364 DPM. So about 350, 400 less, and 70% of the damage. So about the same share, but 400 DPM Diffie. I would say that these roles were the Diffie. That would make sense. It's mid 80 carry. Those two roles do deal the most damage. Excuse me. LCK. Series of the day, I get. Well, yeah. Team WeBLG is probably better. T1 D+. T1 14th in the power rankings, 7-4, coming off of a win against Nongshim. D+ 8th in the power rankings, 7-4, coming off of a win against Sandbox. Last time they played, T1 won 2-0. Owner 14-2, 16, 24% of damage in the win. Canyon 6-5-9, 13% of damage in the loss. Owner being a carry, Canyon being a low-key facilitator or KDA player in that one. Obviously, no faker will be a difference from the last time they played. KT and DRX. KT 4th in the power rankings, 10-1, coming off of a win against HLE. DRX 3-8, coming off of a loss to Genji. Last time they played, KT won 2-0. DRX would swap junglers in that one. They had a rookie in mid lane as well. So Keen, Aiming, Lehens went 22, 5, and 50 for 1,362 DPM. That was 52% of damage in the win. Rascal, Paddock, and Barrel went, this is a very bad scoreline, 1, 22, and 10 for 933 DPM, so about 430 less, and 58% of damage. So less DPM, more of the share. DRX got smoked that time. Lastly, LEC Groups. Team Heretics 19th in the power rankings, 5-4, will be against BDS, who are 4-5. Last time they played, Heretics won. Flackhead 635, 37% of damage in the win. Crowny 223, 24% of damage in the loss. He was just extended in contract. His contract was extended till 2024. I almost said into contract prison because the way the contracts work in LOL Esports, it doesn't sound like anything's guaranteed, but the team is guaranteed to keep your rights if they so choose. Man, if y'all need a union that actually does something, I mean, why aren't you looking at any traditional sport in the history of anything? Koi and G2. Koi 4-5. G2 9th in the power ranking, 7-2. Last time they played, Yike went 7-1-1, 27% of damage in the win on a Kha'Zix. Malring 2-1-1, 12% of damage on a Jarvan. Obviously, those two scorelines are very different. Jarvan is not a Kha'Zix, and a Kha'Zix is not a J4. So that's it for the roundup. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, like it. Subscribe to the channel for daily League of Legends content. Follow me on Twitter, join the Discord, become a YouTube supporter, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.